Welcome back, you all, to the Beyond the Wrestling Gear podcast. And today I have my good friend Xenia. She's a wrestling journalist, a social media consultant, and also a presenter. So, welcome, Xenia.
Hi, thank you for having me. Finally, I know it was a bit of a long time coming to schedule this, but
Yeah,
finally.
I know, right about time. Like, we met back at River City about a month and a half ago, and it was pretty cool getting to know you a little bit. Obviously, you seem like a wonderful human being, and you love and you're passionate about professional wrestling. So, I wanted to kind of start off our podcast with how'd you get involved in wrestling?
Well, I've been a fan since I was 11 years old, which for America is not even that late, but that early, but I am European. So for a European, it was pretty early considering that you don't really have as much access to wrestling, especially on TV. And like most people, I did start with WWE, so it was just an accident really that I stumbled upon it, but I fell in love immediately, and I'm a lifelong wrestling fan. But when it comes to actually doing something in wrestling, I started as a blogger, and it was also an intersection of two things that I've always loved and wanted to do. I've always loved YouTube and long form videos as a medium, which now obviously things have shifted, but at the time I was a big YouTube fan, and it was like the silver era of YouTube, when all the YouTubers that started like 20 years ago were popular, right? So it was a medium that I liked. So I just kind of put the two together, and that's how I started.
It's incredible how things are changing now. Back in the day, people had more of an attention span. Being able to
Mhm.
watch long form videos, enjoy those videos, and now it's like you only have like 5 minutes to just watch something and then just continue on with the day if you can.
I feel like now the tendency is there's like a big disconnect between short form and long form, and we've lost the happy medium completely. Like there's no in the middle. If we talk about the time when I started, the optimal length for YouTube video was 7 minutes. Everyone had 6, 7, 8 minute videos. Now we've completely lost that format. Now it's either 30 seconds, right, or up to 90 seconds, or however long, or completely like long form that competes with TV, that competes with Netflix, that competes with podcasts. So something that's 40 minutes and over. And these are the two formats that are the most viable right now. And we've completely lost that mid length video format. It doesn't exist anymore, really.
Yeah, I mean, now with everything, like I said, like you said, with everything evolving, now you have to really kind of get used to the fact that people want to get to the point within 30 seconds. Otherwise, you know, you're kind of lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, and Instagram actually recently introduced a feature where you can speed up the reels as you watch them. It's honestly, it's good to know as a professional, but it's a little scary that we're talking about a video that's anywhere from 7 to 90 seconds, and people can't sit through it. People have to rewind through it.
Do you think I mean, it depends on like the genre they're watching, kind of like the niche. Like professional wrestling, it's kind of hard to get things condensed within 30 seconds because there's so much action in between that.
Yeah, I think wrestling lives in that like super long format, and WWE somewhat recently, if we're talking about the scale of human history, went to 3 hours of TV, and it's definitely a sign of the time that that is something that's in the podcast ballpark, in the Netflix ballpark, something that is the long format. And then it's presumed that while you're watching the long form, you have your phone out and you're doing something else. And, it's just something that coexists. So when it comes to wrestling, you don't really have to condense it unless we're talking about content creation as a personality in wrestling. Then you definitely have to condense things and figure out how to make content that complements your wrestling as opposed to just shrinks it into 30 seconds.
When it comes to wrestling, do you find it difficult to keep up with all the products because there's so much out there and it's so saturated? Like, you have WWE, you have AEW, you have New Japan, you have Ring of Honor, all these big wrestling companies, and it's kind of hard to keep up with storylines and everything else. Do you find it difficult
I
yourself?
definitely find it a little difficult, especially if you're working in wrestling and you kind of have to keep up with most things. Like obviously, no one has the 20 or however many 30 hours a week to watch all the wrestling or all the top promotions even that are out there. But I try to keep up as much as I can. But yeah, it's definitely a lot. It's definitely saturated. But again, if anything, it's a good thing that we have a really diverse wrestling landscape right now, and there's something for everyone. No matter what kind of wrestling you like, it's accessible, it's good quality, and you can just pick whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan.
It is.
Anywhere, anywhere. And speaking about being a wrestling fan, what was your experience at River City Wrestling Con?
Oh, it was great. It was not the first con that I've done. I've done media cons before, but that was my first time having my own table at a con, and it went better than I had expected. Like I was coming in with low expectations of, okay, I'm going to network, I'm going to talk to some people, but probably not many people are going to care that much. But no, people cared, and it was really a really good feeling, and it's really reassuring. The reason why I like doing events, and I actually did a panel at Florida SuperCon last weekend. One of the reasons why I like doing events is because it's almost a confirmation of your hard work. It's almost a confirmation of, okay, you're doing something that's visible, you're doing something that people care about. So it was a really good experience.
And if you feel like the sense of I made it, I have my own table, people are gonna recognize me for the work that I've done.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of that I made it feeling. I try to not get lost in that feeling because I'm my own biggest critic and I always feel like there's always so much to be achieved yet. And I try to not settle. And honestly, if I'm honest, it's not even that hard to try. Like I just don't. I just never feel like I'm okay. I'm accomplished. I never feel that. Like I feel like maybe for me the moment of okay, I accomplished it would be when I'm like filthy rich, when I'm like flying a private
Right.
plane. Then I would be like, okay, I
I think
think I
that's our
made it.
plans.
But up
Yeah.
until that moment, no, it's still work in progress, and the grind continues the next day.
Who gave you did anybody there give you some really good advice that you take to heart?
I mean, I've gotten a lot of great advice throughout my journey in wrestling, and a lot of the people that I admire and that I'm friends with are people that have a lot of weight in the industry, and specifically in content creation and interviewing and journalism. Like some of the people that I see as mentors are Sean Rossap and RJ City. So RJ City, in my opinion, is the best interviewer I've ever met, the best interviewer in wrestling. He's so thorough, he's so intelligent. So to be able to get feedback from him has been a blessing. And when it comes to interviewing specifically, one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten was from him. And he said, you should come to an interview presuming that your guest, your interview is a mannequin, that they're going to give you nothing, that they're going to give you one word answers to everything. And if you're prepared for that, then, when they're not a mannequin, you're going to be completely comfortable and you're going to be able to make the best product possible. So this is one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten when it comes to interviewing and working with people specifically.
I love that. That is much better than what I've encountered myself. So, and it's a lot safer. You're not picturing anything crazy, you know?
What are you picturing that they're going to physically attack you or something? Like,
No, it's more like they've always told me picture everybody like not wearing anything, and it's like, why
well,
do
that's another
that?
thing.
You
Yeah,
know?
I've never understood that. It's such a
Yeah.
staple piece of advice, but I don't know how that helps.
Yeah, most people are not comfortable with picturing people that way. I've done motivational speaking myself for years, and I've never done that.
Yeah, and I love public speaking, and it's something that I say, and people look at me crazy because usually everyone's like, "Oh, I hate public speaking, but I have to," and it's like I can't imagine a path in life where you have to and you didn't consciously choose it, but you have to speak in public. Like I just don't understand. But like for me, it's something that I really like. And I've done when I was living back in Europe, I've done a lot of public talks about feminism on like scholarly platforms. And now here I get to do panels about wrestling. I've done a panel at LA Comic Con about mental health in wrestling. And like I said, this past weekend we did a panel at Florida SuperCon about the evolution of women's wrestling and the female experience in the wrestling field. So that was amazing. And to me, it's a dual thing. Like I said, part of it is definitely like, oh my gosh, people care about what I say, so I'm some sort of an expert in the industry, and I kind of made it. But the other half of it is that all these things that I talk about, I genuinely, genuinely believe in them, and I value them so much. And for me, feminism and women's rights is such an integral core part of who I am. To be able to share that with people on a public platform is a blessing. It's more than I could ever wish for.
That's awesome, and the fact that you also mentioned that women's wrestling is coming up right now. It's the
Definitely.
hottest thing out there.
Yeah.
From they're coming from the 90s where they were mostly and I hate to put it this way, but they were kind of exploited. They weren't really considered wrestlers. They were more considered a novelty act to finally be respected and being shown as the superstars that they are.
And I agree that exploitation is definitely one of the words that I would use. And we know that historically women have even been held back from performing better as athletes for the fear of they would overshadow men on the card. So I'm glad that those times are past. And it doesn't mean that we can breathe out and be like, okay, finally we achieved equality, because we really, really haven't. But it's definitely good to appreciate the steps in the right direction while still not losing sight of where we're trying to come and what we're trying to achieve.
And and I have to mention this one match during Evolution, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. That match was, and in my opinion, it was fantastic. I mean, from the get go, that proved that women's wrestling is here to stay. In my opinion,
I mean, I think that's not the only thing that's proved it, but definitely for WWE to finally come back to the concept of an all women's show, and even though it was kind of awkwardly wedged into their schedule and it had all the odds against it, and yet it did so well, and yet it sold tickets and sold pay-per-views, and we got some amazing wrestling out of it, is definitely, I agree with you, a testament to how women are a draw and women can be a part of the business and bring the money, and the wrestling is great, obviously. Like that, for me, that didn't need to be proven. I knew that, you know.
yeah, and it proves that you don't need to be so crazy with the wrestling to show out and show that you are capable to making something happen.
Or you could be crazy because, again, when we have
Yeah,
women do hardcore matches or death matches in AEW, it gets a huge, negative response from the audience or from the fans or from the anti-fans, because oh my gosh, it's when a woman does it, somehow it's so much worse than when the man does it. So I think it is important for women to be able to do that as well, and for people to not cringe or switch the channel. And the only reason why people perceive it as something so much worse than when men do it is their own preconceived notions. There's really no objective reason as to why it should be worse. So maybe you can go a little crazy as well. Why not?
yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, for sure. I agree. I agree. Just as long as you don't go like overboard. Sometimes which it happens,
But
but
also,
hey,
define overboard. I feel like when it comes to televised promotions, everything is safer than it would be on the
yeah,
independents. Even then, wrestling is just a dangerous sport on the whole. Whether you're wielding a light tube or not, people get career-altering injuries from the most basic spots. Roll their ankles during their entrance. People break bones when catching an outside. Like, it's really, I mean, you could argue that pointy, stabby objects are dangerous, of course, but
yeah,
wrestling on the whole is dangerous. So it's really a minimal variation of how dangerous, you know? We can't, to me, it comes across a little hypocritical when people clutch their pearls at deathmatch, but then they watch someone jump off of a Hell in a Cell cage and they're fine with it. Like, it is dangerous.
right.
It's a good understanding to have that those people, every time they go out there, they put their life on the line for the sport, for our entertainment, and regardless of whether they're stabbing each other or not. But there's definitely, you're right that there is definitely a line, but where that line is an open discussion.
Right, and that's what I love about people like ourselves is we're willing to agree to disagree without,
For sure, yeah.
telling somebody, hey, I don't want to talk to you anymore about this or about that, because there's some people that really take it to heart
But
and they'll
yeah,
be like, I don't want to speak with you anymore, they cut you out just because you said something, of your belief, obviously, you know, you can agree to disagree and still be friends. There's nothing wrong with
definitely.
that.
And like for me, it's also confusing. Like you said, people take it so seriously and so close to heart that, when you have some kind of following on social media, you would have, for any opinion that you express, you would have people agreeing and disagreeing, right? And like you said, people get heated, but it never ever like personally touches me when someone gets mad about my wrestling opinion. Like, I really genuinely don't care if you agree or not. Like, so I can't even begin to explain how deeply I don't care. Like, when it comes to other things that have to do more with human rights, like we were saying, right? Like with the equality with minorities, with women, like that is something that I can and will take to heart. And this is something that will make me mad sometimes when they get comments of a certain nature. But when it's purely just wrestling, like, come on, like you're calling me names over a wrestling opinion, okay? You do, I guess.
And I've seen it, online, and it's like the IWC can be toxic at times too.
It can be, and it's definitely a double-edged sword of, on the one hand, we have so much room and so much opportunity for community building, and we can make friends through it, and we can discuss, and we can compare opinions, and almost all of my friends I've met through wrestling. Like, I literally have minimal non-wrestling friends, maybe like two people if I were to really scrape the barrel. But on the other hand, because we're exposed to so much information, and specifically so much information about how the sausage is made, something that from the get-go, from the start of the rise of the industry, the fans were never supposed to know. Like, there were, of course, still fan clubs and forums and all of that, and people did find things out here and there, but we were never supposed to be exposed to so much information about you know, the back end of the business. So it definitely provides this toxic environment and this environment for arguments and disagreements and a lot of hate for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And so far, the conversation has been awesome. Let's jump into social media consulting. How did you get started with that? And how's that going for you so far?
It's been going amazingly so far, and I started it somewhat recently as compared to my entire journey in wrestling. I started about a year and a half ago, and I've been working in wrestling for 7 years. So it's just something that came so naturally because I've been doing social media for, like I said, over 7 years. And, I started as a YouTuber, and then I grew my Instagram, and then my Twitter just kind of grew organically. I didn't even do much to grow it, it just followed the Instagram and the YouTube. And I've been doing all that specifically with the wrestling focus and specifically with the wrestling optic. And at some point, or a year and a half ago, I realized that I've accumulated so much information about social media, but also specifically about social media in wrestling. And the social media part is not something that just appeared. I do have an education in that. I have a master's degree in new media and strategic communications. So that's something that has been my profession and something that has been my day job over the years. And I do have non wrestling clients as well still. But me accumulating that knowledge specifically in this niche was something that prompted me to look around and analyze what people around me were doing. And that made me realize that so many amazing performers, so many great promotions are leaving so much money on the table simply by not using the online tools, the digital tools, the new media tools. And me, as someone who loves wrestling so much, really for me, the whole motivation for this is wanting the industry to thrive and wanting the people who deserve it and who are talented in the industry to thrive as well and to make good money. Because as compared to any other kind of athlete, professional wrestlers are so severely underpaid. And part of it is because as an independent wrestler, you're kind of thrown into the business and you're forced to be a freelancer by definition. And a lot of people don't know how to do it. So this is something that I want to share with the world and I want to share with people and help them succeed and help them be paid what they're worth.
Right, and it's not just the pay, but the fact that you can't really obtain health insurance through working for a promotion is so difficult as well.
Yeah, well, that too. That I can't help with, but that's why we're talking about pay specifically because when you employ different sources of income other than just your booking fee, you're going to make more money than you do right now. And for a lot of wrestlers right now, they're making only 10% of what they could be making with the infrastructure that they already have, with the character that they already have, with the social media accounts that they already have. As much as I can't fix the issue of no health insurance, as much as I can't fix the issue of no union, obviously I'm not the president of the United States or any country for that matter. It would be weird if I was the president of the United States with the accent that I have. I can help make more money, and that would solve a lot of the problems.
Is there anybody in particular you'd like to kind of work with, like a dream client or anybody out there that you've seen?
I mean, I would love to work with a larger promotion, with a televised promotion. be it AEW or NWE, for example, I think really could have a good synergy with me, or TNA or WWE if they would want me, right? So it's definitely something that I want to offer bigger promotion because imagine if a singular independent wrestler is leaving so much money on the table. Imagine how much money a large promotion is leaving on the table. And there's obviously a lot of things that TV promotions do very well that independent promotions don't, but there's still so many blind spots. And that I think is because of the little preconceived notion that wrestling is just inherently so different from any other industry, which it is, but it also isn't. Just because it's so different as a product, it doesn't mean that it can't employ tactics as a business. So this is something that I would definitely love to do. Like for me, the number one would be AEW probably, just because I love the product so much and I've been a fan since the first show ever, right? But like I said, then NWA I would absolutely love to work with. TNA I would absolutely love to work with. So I'm very open and willing and hopeful for that.
Now, I know you've worked with, as a wrestling journalist for quite a bit,
Yes.
but would we ever see you step in the ring?
No. This is your answer, no. I get asked a lot. I guess because people just hate to see a 6 foot woman go to waste. But I might look a certain way, I might look strong, but I really am not. I'm not an athlete. I'm not a sports person. I work out only because I have to, because I like to eat. But I have zero sports background. I mean, I play golf a little bit. I don't think that's going to help. I'm just not an athlete at all. And I'm also a bit of a snob when it comes to wrestling. So my belief is the only people who should be in that squared circle are people who live, breathe, bleed, and die on the mat, right? So unless you can't live without the mat, you have no business being in the ring. And that's obviously with some subtle exceptions of some wrestlers being a bit more of a show person, a bit more of a character. And this is not me saying that all wrestlers have to be Bryan Danielson in the ring. Like, I'm really not of that belief. I really think your in ring, if anything, your in ring ability is a minor factor in how successful you're going to be. But I'm mostly talking about the approach and about the love for the industry. Like, I love the industry so much. I live and breathe wrestling, but I no, I don't belong in the ring. I'll be outside. I'll be right outside of it. I'll be right there.
Maybe managing, being a
Yeah,
manager.
yeah, I've done that before, and I'm open to doing more of that, 100%. One thing that kind of has stopped me from doing that recently is that as an interviewer, right, and as a journalist, you have to be kind of impartial. But then when it comes to managing, you're an on-screen character, and this is something that can get a little tricky with combining the two. But I have done that before in Europe and in America, and yeah, I love doing that. I would love to continue doing that. I dabbled a little bit when I was working with CCW here in Florida. I was a part of the Frank the Clown and Skits feud, and I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I'm 100% open to do that more.
I could definitely see that. Obviously, you've accomplished so much, and I see a lot more coming in your future.
Yeah, hopefully, but I do really need someone really tall to manage, I think, because I'm almost 6 foot and I don't want to tower over someone and make them look bad. Like, even when I do backstage interviews, sometimes I'm really peeling back the curtain, but sometimes I do the little baby giraffe stance that makes me look a little short.
All right, you're like kind of hunched over, and you're trying to get the person interviewing there, and you're like, man, it's so hard to just stand like this because you feel like I'm about to fall over. You
No,
know,
no, never hunched over. The posture has to be good, but then it's all in the legs. Stand a little wider.
hey, leg power, right? Yeah, well, Xenia, it's been a wonderful interview. Where can my listeners find you or contact you for anything?
Yes, so I'm at Xenia the Dad on all social media platforms. That's Xenia on YouTube, Instagram, on X, or Twitter. And if you're a wrestling fan, you will find interviews and show content from all over the world. And I've interviewed over 200 wrestlers in 3 languages, so you will definitely find at least one of your favorites on my channel. But if you're a professional of any kind, if you're a wrestler, if you're a promoter, if you're a referee, podcaster, photographer, anything, I do my social media program. I help people build their following, help people unlock new income streams, reach out to me, DM me or mail me, or tap the link in my bio and schedule a call. The discovery call is always free. I also do free media webinars for wrestling professionals every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So get in touch again or tap the link in my bio and sign up, and I'll see you there on Monday.
Okay, and like I said, like I always tell everybody, always, you're always more than welcome to come back on if you ever have something that comes up, any events or anything. You can always come back on and talk about it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And this was a great interview. I really enjoyed the questions.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And if you guys want to listen to this episode, you guys can go to Spotify, YouTube, or any other major podcasting outlet out there. And as always, we don't just talk about wrestling, but we go beyond the wrestling gear. Until next time, everybody.